North Island Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, and I would just like to let you know that I will be splitting my time with a member from Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope that you'll have the patience to indulge me for one short moment. This week past in the riding, I was honoured to have a few moments in 2 stops of the Wounded Warriors Run in BC. You know, these folks ran all the way from Port Hardy to Victoria to talk about the challenges that so many veterans and first responders face. They're fundraising to make sure that they can provide that immediate support, and I just appreciated so deeply their dedication, their vigorousness in their run, and how committed they are to the people that rush in when we are rushing out. So I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate them.
Well said.
So here we are today talking about something that's really a fundamental issue. It's about being paid on time, making sure that when you have employees, they get the pay that they deserve for the work that they do. And I think the most important thing that we must do in this speech, in this House today, is recognize that our public workers are still out there every day doing their work. And that is a tremendous testament to their dedication to this country, because they are showing up not often knowing if they're going to be paid, if they're going to be paid less, if they're going to be overpaid, and I just cannot say enough for all of those people. Thank you so much for continuing that amazing work, even in this very precarious environment. So I think it's important that we remember, I'm hearing a lot of partisanship in this place today, and I think we need to let go of that. We need to let go of blame, and we need to get moving on action. The reality is we have people in this country that are refusing position changes or promotions or parental leave because they are afraid that they are not going to get paid.
Wow.
So if you think about that right now, there are people in this country making decisions on if they are going to have children or not because they are afraid that they are not going to get paid if there's any change to their employment. This system was put in place, it was meant to save $70 million a year, and now we are over $40 million trying to fix it. We have 73% of the total amount of federal employees that are struggling under this issue. Mr. Speaker, that is close to 200,000 workers in this country. And at the end of the 2017 audit period, 49,000 employees were still waiting more than a year to have pay requests processed. So, the reality on the ground is there is often no compensation for shift work. Overtime is being recorded or paid improperly. Income taxes are being calculated incorrectly. Delays are happening for pension payments. Employees are getting overpaid, underpaid, or not paid at all. I remember one constituent telling me, I've worked in this position for over 20 years. Suddenly, my full-time job is being paid as a part-time job, and I just keep showing up hoping that this will get fixed. And the result is incredible stress for workers and their families. And I think we cannot leave that out of this conversation. We have families that are in incredibly precarious positions because they are not getting their compensation. So, Madam or Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for having us here to have this really important discussion. I want to talk about some people in my riding. I think this is so important because, again, it goes back to that part. This is a human issue. There are people in this country that are struggling. I want to talk about Graham. He's a member of my constituency. He worked with DFO for over 32 years. He retired in 2016. He was expecting to be paid his severance pay. He's been asking for it since 2016, was told that it was being processed. Then he called again in the early 2017. He was told then that he was supposed to fill out a form that he had never heard of before. And then he was told he had to fill it out online. Well, Mr. Speaker, he is not really comfortable working online and was very distressed that nobody had even spoken to him about this form. So trying to figure that out, did that, and then told on the May 4th, 2017, with help from a local financial advisor, that he would submit it, and now it's February. And what is Graham being told? It's still being processed. So this is somebody that dedicated 32 years of their life to this job, to this country, and now being told you still have to wait. And then we have Nate David, who worked for DFO from 2001 to 2016. He received a pay increase in 2014, but it never appeared on his pay. Now he's old for the 2-year period, still has not received that, has called numerous times since leaving in 2016, and is always being told that his file is being processed. He just called again last week and was advised that no one has been assigned yet to his file, nor has anyone looked at it. He is to call back in the next few weeks for yet another update.
Unbelievable.
So the reality is this is causing him and his family significant emotional and mental stress. I think it's important that we recognize that people who are trying to do their job are being forced to not only do their job, but try to fight for their pay. And I'm pretty sure that that's not what they're supposed to be doing, and they shouldn't be asked to do that. So for David, he just wants to see this resolved. He wants to move on. Over 2 years of money owed to him for that pay increase. Then we have Scott. Scott actually worked for DFO for 36 years. And I think this is important, Mr. Speaker. When I started here, we knew that the Coast Guard station in Comox was going to be shut down. We fought hard to not have that happen. And unfortunately, it did. So after all those years of service, Scott was asked to go to Victoria and help change that over. He did all of that work, and then he came back to Comox and now is working for the Department of National Defence. So I just think this is important. Scott is still being paid as an employee of DFO. That hasn't even been fixed yet. So the other reality is he got a small increase of pay, and that is still not being given to him. So recently, Scott went online to track his case and noted 26 outstanding items needed to be processed under his employee number. 26. So this is 2 years. This is 2 years of dealing with this pay system, having the reality that he gets zero earnings sometimes, and other times he's getting huge lump payments. His child tax benefit has been hugely impacted by this because he got overpaid and then underpaid. This is incredibly stressful for this family. And then Stacy. Stacy actually went out and got a mortgage. You know, that's something you do. A single mom supporting her family, doing the best that she can. She is now 2 annual increment payments behind. That was a large part of how she was going to be paying her mortgage. She still hasn't received this. So again, going back and forth between HR team and the pay center, being told to go back to there, back and forth, trying to find time in her busy work schedule where she's dedicatedly working for the people of this country, and she doesn't have time to be calling and trying to fight this fight, filling out numerous forms, and living off debt because she does not have the money to support her family because this government hasn't fixed it. So these are the realities on the ground. And so I just want to make sure that the members of my riding, North Island Powell River, know what our party is asking for today. This is it. That in the opinion of the House, the government committed a gross error in judgment when it operationalized the previous government's Phoenix pay system over the clear objections of both affected unions and departmental staff. And that the House called on this government to A, pay all employees correctly and on time every time for the work that they do, exempt those who have been overpaid by Phoenix from having to pay back the gross amount despite actually receiving a substantially lower net amount, compensate those in the public service who have experienced damages from Phoenix both financially and otherwise, and D, publicly apologize to all those who have endured hardship as a result of the government's error.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, I think this is a reasonable request. I think this is a request that honors the realities on the ground of families who have lost so much. You know, I've had constituents tell me stories about having to borrow a tremendous amount of money just to make the basic needs of their life be met. I've talked to constituents who have had to eat at numerous friends' houses. Communities are coming together to support these people, but it is completely unacceptable that they're being asked to do this. And so many businesses have come to talk to me as well and said, if we ever did this, we would be charged, we would be held accountable. How is it that there is 2 sets of rules for small businesses and for this government?
Right.
So we ask this government to do the right thing, to honor the people who work for us every day, make sure they are paid, and fix this fiasco.
Hear, hear.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The honourable member for Gatineau.
Merci beaucoup.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Now, where we see a lot of common sense is with the wording of the motion that says what needs to be done in order to fix the problem, to compensate for it and to fix the problem with this system that was left by the previous government. Now, what we find bothersome, what perturbs us about this, what we find absurd, in fact, with respect to the motion, standing in the name of the member for Jonquière, is the lack of evidence that the government acted despite comments made, despite the position. Now, I asked a question of the member for Jonquière. I asked a question of the member for New Westminster, and now I would ask the current speaker if she can produce evidence, because the previous two couldn't. If she can produce some kind of proof or evidence that the government acted on the opposite advice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for his question. And just so that he knows, my riding is called North Island Powell River. It is a beautiful riding with amazing people who work for the Department of National Defence, that work for DFO, and are not getting paid. And if that is not evidence enough for this House to step up and do the right thing, then I'm really shocked. You know, this member referred to it as absurd. This is not an absurd motion. This is a motion based on the realities that workers are facing in this country. People are losing their homes. That is not absurd. That is outrageous. And that you are not or this House and this government is not standing up and getting this fixed. I remember one constituent said to me, where is the people that just write the checks? Like, I understand the system is broken, but we just need to be paid. When children are not getting fed, when houses are being lost, then there is something significantly wrong. And you know, this government can say as much as it likes that they're putting systems in place. I have people who have not been paid for months. And that is totally unacceptable.
Very good.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Edmonton West.
I'd like to thank my colleague from the West Coast for her speech. I've been to Powell River several times. It's a beautiful area. Now, I spoke previously about the work done in committee by myself and her colleague from the member from Regina Luan, where we had a commitment from this government in November to have by December 15th resources for the members of Parliament so they can help those affected by the Phoenix issue. The government says that's not a priority. People should just call their managers. I'm wondering if my colleague believes that these people affected by Phoenix should just simply call their manager, or should the government fulfill their commitment stated in November by December 15th to have resources for the members of Parliament to help those affected by Phoenix?
Honourable member for North Island Powell River.
Good question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for his question. I absolutely agree that we need to do something fundamental. You know, in my office alone, since this started, we've had over 50 cases. And that may not seem like a lot, but I know of offices that have had well over 200. So the reality is that we need to be providing the resources so that people can get the help. And when I talk about the stories in my writing, this is the challenge. We have workers who are being told to go to this office, go to that office, go to this office, and then trying to work those offices off each other so that they can get their issues put forward a lot faster. That is a lot of time. That is a lot of time for workers to have to go and engage those different places and try to get them to leverage each other so that they can get action on their file. So I think what we really have to take a moment to do here is recognize we need to serve the people who are facing this challenge, not serve the people who are incredibly responsible for it. Thank you.
Very good.
Reprise du débat, resuming debate. L'honorable député